Well, so the one right now, that's how that extra one is going to be. Because I put the right now. All right, okay, it is 7 o'clock. We will call the meeting of the Charter Township of Bedford to order. Please rise for a moment of reflection, followed by the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ready? Roll call.
Supervisor Jones.
Here.
Clerk Baracco. Here. President Miller. Here. Trustee Hires. Trustee Beamish. Here. Trustee Greenwood. Here. Trustee Damon. Here. 7, we have a quorum.
Next, we have approval of the agenda of September 4th. Yes, approval of the agenda of September 14th. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve the agenda as submitted. So moved.
Forward.
Who moved it? Greenwood?
Okay, any discussion, changes? Okay.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baracco. Yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Damon.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you. Next is approval of the minutes from the August 10th, 2023 meeting. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to approve the August 10th, 2023 minutes as submitted. Is there a motion?
Support.
Hires.
Motion to
Damon.
the motion that we started with, is admitted, that is called for the vote. Who made the motion? For me to chair? So the clerk did. But that's not included in the minutes.
Oh, that's not in the minutes?
So, and then I
So
did
with a, okay, so with a friendly amendment to add that.
Yes. And I would
That
appreciate
motion.
minutes, give an email to us, when we're done. Rather than the packet.
They were on the website.
The trustee email address, do I think it's more appropriate to go through?
Okay.
I have a additional friendly amendment. I don't know if we need to vote on that one first.
Okay, let's go ahead and, do we have a motion for the amendment for adding the, I wasn't here at that meeting, so, for adding the, motion that was made to have Barry chair, if you have who that was.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion on that amendment? Okay, roll call?
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baracco. Yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Damon.
Yes.
7, motion carried.
Okay, so that gets changed, it's struck through. Any other?
And then just an additional, the monthly action plan was missing from the board packet, but Mr. McKinney did give them her. So just to have that in there as well.
Was it, it's not.
As a,
just a normal report by the superintendent.
As an attachment, Stacy?
Yes.
Okay, motion, Trustee Greenwood has moved to add the superintendent's verbal, so Beamish. Second, anyone?
Yes. Second.
And Miller? Okay, roll call? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Clerk Baracco. Yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Damon.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Okay, that will be added.
Okay, and now with those two amendments, do I have a motion? We did have a motion, I guess, for the approval, so, any other changes on Hires and Damon, have motioned and second, any other changes to the minutes? Okay. All right, ready for roll call?
Clerk Baraco. Yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried with the reports.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Next, we have supervisor announcements or comments. As you all know, or most of you know, and the board has known for about 3 weeks now that I have submitted my resignation as supervisor of Bedford Charter Township. It was with a lot of thought and prayer, and it's been a really difficult decision, but because of some other family health demands that are really challenging my time and attention, and all of the time and attention this job continues to take. And I want to do a good job at both, but my family is my first priority. It always has been, and it always will be. So it's with deep sadness and regret. My dad didn't raise a quitter. He lived in this township a long time. Richard Sass was an administrator at Battle Creek Public Schools, and this is why, one of the reasons that this is such a difficult decision for me to make, but my family comes first, and their health comes first as well. And actually they've been asking me to do this for a long time, you know, it's been challenging and fun. I will say fun, because we've worked on a lot of good projects, and really this board has really worked to try to move Bedford forward. Those are good challenges, but some of the other challenges that have been, some of the other chaos that has been orchestrated and rained down on this township ongoing has been beyond difficult, and shouldn't have been. And so to the extent that I might serve as a lightning rod for that, I don't want to do anything to hurt this township. That is the last thing I want to do. So if this also serves the benefit of allowing the township to move forward, then and I hope it does. I really do. I really want good things for this township. Okay? So, and that resignation letter is in the board packet. It's been there. This is not, I think it's out there in the community anyway, but it was sent as an email to the board about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, so they knew. And I am doing everything I can to work with our superintendent and manager, and I will work with whoever's appointed or elected as the next supervisor. I want this to be as seamless as possible. I really do. I want only the best for Bedford, and I always will. Okay, so otherwise, just to get you up to base, to speed with what's going on, River Road project, the award letter did get sent out to Hoffman Brothers. Hoffman Brothers did have a low bid. We should have a notice to proceed from Eagle coming soon, and then there'll be a pre-construction conference that will be held for all the involved parties. We should start seeing pipe in the ground this winter, and all of the residents down that road will be apprised of which one-way traffic and all of that will be handled. Progress meetings will be scheduled with CEI, Hoffman, and the township every other week. Those may be in person, they may be Teams meetings, but that will go on throughout the duration of the project. And so we will try to keep the township, and particularly those residents, up to date with what's going on. We just received our first disbursement of funds back to the township for the engineering costs, consulting fees that just came in from our, they call it a loan, it's 100% loan forgiveness and principal and interest. Just got that from the state. Again, remember that's federal money that came down. Those disbursement requests can happen bi-monthly. This first one, we will have, some of those funds will be going back to the township for the upfront costs that we paid through our ARPA funds for some of the initial consulting and planning that went into this. As far as the Ellis Harmonia project, we do need now from Eagle to get 50% buy-in. They don't want to fund projects that people aren't going to hook up to. So they would like to have now 50% of the residents commit to hooking up to their water when that comes through. So we did send out letters to all the residents. They have until October 1st to get back with us. Our intent to apply must be submitted by November 1st. So I'm hoping that that will go in a positive direction. There's still money in that fund, emerging contaminants, that we could probably leverage again for the township. And I think that's the right thing to do. Our website is still, we are now in the quality control aspect of that. That is about it was 3 to 4 weeks. We're probably down to about 1.5 weeks now. I'm hoping that will be done so I can participate in that as well. There will be training, there'll be a site review and then content edit training coming up soon, probably, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Recycling, I had announced, that's been met with a lot of positive feedback from a lot of residents, but we've also had a lot of misuse of it and a lot of garbage dumped in the bins. And then we've locked the bins at night, but the locks, that people don't care, some people, and so those have been, many times we'll find them open in the morning, and it's created a mess and a lot of extra work for our maintenance and grounds people that we really don't have. And so we have negotiated with Republic we can't get out of the contract without a large fee, and so we've negotiated with them to pick up the bins, but we won't be breaking a contract if we get one of the little Kirby's of recycling. So that will be for office use for the township, the office supplies that come, the cardboard and that type of thing, and that would be behind the building. I'm sorry, I wish it had worked out. I wish everyone had been respectful of how to use it properly, but it has just been creating an eyesore, and it's just not going to be acceptable. As far as the abandoned gas station on West Michigan, good news there. It's been long in coming, but the building has now been abated for hazardous materials, and we do have a notice to commence demolition, and the land bank has hired Handy Excavating. That is supposed to start, according to Krista Trout-Edwards, the first week of October. So you should start seeing that come down. They do not want anyone parking on that because of the contamination that was there. They don't want that parking lot used per se right now. So there will either be a curb put up on West Michigan. We're trying to figure out from MDOT. I thought that West Michigan M89 down this area was going to be redone in 2025, but what we're hearing now is it's 2028. So that's a long time to wait for a curb. But they will either put a cement structure up there and on the side road to prevent people from parking in there. There will be some kind of barrier. It's not going to be perfect, but it will be a lot better than the eyesore that we have had there and endured for a long time. We will be meeting with Christine Parson, a few of us, regarding roads and road planning for 2024. They need any kind of commitment that the township wants to make by December 15th. So our roads advisory committee has been meeting. I'm sure we'll hear more about that tonight. Any member from the roads advisory committee that would like to go with me to that meeting is welcome to do that. It's Monday at 9:30 a.m. at the county. And then I just wanted to mention, because we just finished, the planning commission just finished doing a real, what I thought was like an excellent job on looking at and revising our solar ordinance. Really commendable, but it was like within a week, 2 weeks of that, there's proposed legislation in Lansing, House Bills 4759 to 4761, that look to take zoning out of the hands of local communities, townships, and everything, because of some of the pushback that they believe they're getting about putting in solar. So I reached out to the board and I said, please call Representative Hosmer, he's here tonight, and Senator Albert, who's our state senator. Talk to them about that really those decisions should remain in local control, under local control. And they do like to hear from what we think about that. So the more calls they get, the better, right? Right, Representative? Okay, and I think that's it. That's a lot of information, but I think that's it for now. The next on our agenda is public comment. I'm not going to read all of the rules for public comment. If you need to refresh your memory, there's copies out in the lobby, so feel free. We do want to hear from all of you in, whatever you want to tell us. But if you could do it in a respectful manner, we would very much appreciate that. So you'll have 3 minutes, come to the podium, please state your name. And this first public comment is on agenda items only. Thank you.
My name is Just Schatz. I'd like to talk about the violations of the American way of doing things here. It's pretty simple. If you're the attorney who represents a township and you give counsel as to whether or not a project should move forward that is going to pay some attorney a lot of money, it seems very common sense to me that that would be a different attorney. So it's not a conflict of interest. So that you're not recommending the township move forward with doing something that's going to pay you personally millions of dollars potentially.
Mr. Schatz, one moment. Can you stop it for just 1 second? Which agenda item are you speaking on right now?
The water project. The resolution to give the authority over to the superintendent on this water project.
Is this about moving the authority, legal
Yes.
agent authority? It's
Yes.
about that. Okay, continue. I hope you get to that. Thank you.
Thank you. As well as I feel that ethical engineer, if they were hired to ethically represent the township and give counsel as to whether or not a project should be moved forward with, that is going to pay some engineer a big chunk of money, it seems common sense ethics to me that any one of you should know that. And obviously, I'm bringing this up because this authority is trying to get removed from the voters even further to the superintendent instead of a potentially elected supervisor. This has been unethically managed. For an attorney, for an engineer to claim that they are above the practice of competitive bidding for their rates is offensive to the people and to the American way of doing things. For an attorney and an engineer to claim that it is ethical and appropriate for them to be the one who counsels and advises the township board to move forward and continue expanding projects that is going to directly pay and benefit them, that is an unethical conflict of interest. It's been rubbed in our face repeatedly, and apparently we just think that there's some class of people that is above ethics, that is above oversight of the community and how they spend those community dollars. I am very much addressing the issue about whether the authority on this water project get turned over to a superintendent, because my first question would be, why is that? Why is that happening? Why is that a necessary thing? Are we not going to have a new supervisor? Why do we need to remove that authority away from a potential new supervisor? Are we afraid that they might have an attack of ethics and mothball this project that's going to pay certain people $1.5 million just for the first third of just this first stage of the project? If the total continues like this, if there's going to be 2 more stages of this project, does that mean that our attorney and our engineer, who do not have to compete for this work, are going to get $1.5 million each stage?
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Schatz. I'm just going to clarify that the legal agent, we do need a legal agent just to sign disbursement, and there are certain things we have to sign. And so in the interim of not, potentially, of October 5th, at the end of the day, not having a legal agent, we would be in trouble. So we do need to let Eagle know who is going to take that over. There's nothing that the legal agent, even with me signing, would be doing without board approval. Okay, so just to clarify that, thank you. Okay.
Good evening, I'm Catherine LaValle, and your resolution 09142355, and I know you may not be able to answer my question, but is this a renewal of the special assessment district for our street pipe? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barb Culver. Regarding resolution 51, regarding hiring the new assessor position, I'm sorry, that's 52, not 51, I apologize. I noticed on the Penfield Township agenda, which was dated 9/12, that they listed that they were going into an agreement with Bedford Township regarding an assessor. I'm hoping our superintendent can clear that up for us, and if we're getting our own, or if we're going into jointly with Bedford. And also, I'm gonna say this is communications. I know we hand out a treasurer's report every night, but I do know it's not in the packet. I'm wondering why it's not listed on the website. Or, because there's no way we can go back ever to look to see, not saying you're doing anything wrong, but to verify what has happened in the township. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else for public comment on agenda items?
Actually, this one is one of the listed under communication. It's regarding the transportation authority. From what I understand in regards to this, it's about the Battle Creek Transit offering bus services in Bedford, where right now there isn't any. I live in Bedford Hills Trailer Park, and there's a lot of people in that area that are indigent, socially isolated, and there's no way they can walk from where we live on the outskirts of Battle Creek towards Bedford. There's no sidewalk, no linear path, nothing that they can use to get themselves to Taylor Street or around the curve on Morgan and up to, I think it's Laurel's of Bedford. There's a bus stop there. I think that this should be looked upon as something that will keep everybody involved with one another socially and economically. It's more affordable than sometimes a vehicle. And from what I understand also is the handy van and BC Go may quit going out to that location if something isn't approved. I just think that we're not taking a big look at the big picture to help people that really need help. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else, public comment?
Danielle Volmer. I actually wanted to first thank you, Joni, for your service in the year that I've been volunteering with the Township Parks Committee. I've been really impressed with your work and ethic, and I'm very sad to see you go. Second, I wanted to address Resolution 51 also, and I'm asking the board not to be short-sighted and to consider Bedford's interest in the long term and vote yes to join a countywide effort to establish transportation authority. Whether you would use it now or looking to the future, if you plan to stay in your house as you age, many residents in this community would benefit greatly from a countywide transportation authority. Looking at just the census data for our township, since 1980, we have lost 10% of our population, where in the same time frame, the county as a whole has only declined by 6%. We need to ask ourselves why this is. And opting out of cooperative infrastructure and amenities that are good for the community doesn't seem like a strategy that would stop this decline. Bedford also has the second largest number of veteran residents in the county, with Battle Creek City being the largest. We have Silver Star Apartments and the VA in our township, and this would benefit vets in the area who are struggling with transportation to access the services that they deserve. We are also an aging township with 20% of residents over age 65 compared to the national average of 17%. This could be a very important way to help seniors.
Thank you for your.
That wasn't yours. That was it.
The only one that gets a big award.
All right. This could be a very important way to help seniors struggling to make health appointments, and also with social isolation, which we know is an issue for folks as they age. We also have a disproportionate number of residents under the age of 65 with disabilities. Nationally, this number sits at around 9%. In Bedford, we have 14% of residents that deal with disabilities under the age of 65. And they also need transportation to access the services they need to live well and thrive. For these reasons, I hope the board chooses to be part of an effective public transportation solution and bring this infrastructure to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle, and I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm glad I have more time.
All right, thank you for your comments. Anyone else, for public comment, on the agenda item?
Hello, Adam Whitela, I'm the supervisor. Thank you, Jody. We'll start there. Thanks for stepping down, no matter the reason. I appreciate that. During your address, you did make comments about not wanting to control speech, and then the first comments are all you did was control speech. So it's a good thing that you're stepping down, because again, you're still double speaking in your last time. Because that's what you've done repeatedly. And so we're not going to get any apologies for the things that you pushed through. You're going to want praise for all of the different things and say, look at what we did, even though they shouldn't maybe have been done. Or maybe should have had more input from the public, or maybe listen to the input from the public for some of them that they said they didn't want. Because that's where we're at. The newly formed authority is a good thing that you guys are opting out of that. This is centralizing of power is not an American thing, even though we've seen it repeatedly over and over and over, and you as a board have been trained to be powerful people and wield your power, because that's what we've seen. But that's what this is. I know that that's what this is because it was a part of the Marxist organization that I shut down in this community called Jonah, that was attached to the Gamaliel Foundation, whose agenda has been these transportation authorities. I was on the board, the head of the board, statewide board for their initiative back in 2015. Southeast Michigan was their first major push in what they got, because that's where Moses, their parent companies, located. So it's good that you're not participating right now in that socialism. The amount of tax increases that would happen to our public, again, is a greater detriment to the lack of transportation. Lack of transportation is happening because of the amount of regulation and government controls. So removing those controls would be the best step to allow the freedom to have people get their transportation from people the way we should allow it to happen. The regulations would have got rid of taxi services. Ask anyone that's been involved in it.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else tonight for seeing none? Okay, we'll move on to reports. And our first resolution of well, you have communications, you've seen that list. Finance resolution 9/14/2348. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of Charter Township of Bedford to approve payment of expenses totaling $118,848.42. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Myers? Okay, any discussion? Check, disperse all those financial records in your packet.
I do. Erica brought up, I'm sorry, the treasurer brought up at the last meeting that there was an issue with the Parks and Rec picnic table allocation going through ARPA. And then I see another charge here on the check disbursement. Was this rectified? It looks like we paid it twice.
There's a voided check.
So it was voided out?
Yes, it was.
The voided ones are.
Is it reflected on this?
It should be. Yes, I voided it this week. When was that printed?
Tuesday, it was voided Tuesday.
So did we have that GL under ARPA? Or was it just for the check register?
Say it again.
Did we have that GL under ARPA, taken out of ARPA last month?
Yes, because it went up.
So
That
it was,
check is
it was
voided.
also deducted in the
Yes.
budget? Okay.
Any other questions about that? Questions? No. Okay, seeing none, roll call? Oh, I'm sorry.
I covered that. Okay. Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you. Next are our public health and safety reports. Officer LaValle isn't here tonight, but I believe we have Officer Pickle. We can move that out again for her. Thank you. You can address us. If you don't mind. Yeah, thank you.
I'm Officer Fickle. I'm the newly assigned Bedford Township car for the next 6 months. So I will be working nights on this rotation. I apologize, Officer Lorelli cannot make it tonight, so hopefully I can do half a good job.
You're
for
fine.
Stephanie.
Thank you.
In regards to some incidences that have happened over the last month, there was an arson over on Collier Road near the consumer power line. Someone set a vehicle on fire and we later found out that the vehicle was stolen. I don't believe we have made any more progress on who set the fire, but that's definitely something we're looking into. Arrests are up in the past month. All of those have consisted of domestic violence assault, operating while intoxicated arrests, warrant arrests, drug arrests, and a few child abuse arrests as well. Another thing to look at are the larcenies. We've been getting reports that mail is being taken out of mailboxes in the area of M37 and Michigan Ave. We recommend that you take the any mail that you want sent out. We recommend you take it to the blue box instead of placing it in your own personal mailbox and then leaving the red flag up. That'll kind of an invite for people to look in the mailbox and then take what they want. And then our calls for service, there have been over 300 calls for service in Bedford Township this past month. To connect to that, our travel time for what we call priority 1 calls in Bedford Township are around 5 to 6 minutes. And then between priority 2 and priority 3 calls, those average around 7 or 8 minutes as well. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Chief Cookensberg, your fire report.
Running about 750 calls right now for the year. Majority of those are medicals and stuff. We have a couple of big bashes coming on up here within a into this month, September 30th. We have a fall festival down into the park in Bedford, which is down in the village area there and stuff. There it starts at 10:30. The parade starts up at the schoolhouse and comes down Hutchison to M37 and M37 down to Bevere where she'll end down there and stuff. This is from 10:30. The parade starts at 10:30 and the whole thing lasts till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's supposed to be quite a bit of facilities, festivals and things going on through there this time, this year and stuff. So games and chili cook-offs and hot dogs, and there's supposed to be a band down there and stuff, and quite a bit of other entertainment and stuff. So I asked if you would please entertain it and come down and enjoy it and see what we're trying to bring Bedford back to the original status of the years ago when they used to have a parade up there, would start from the Mason Temple up there and go all the way on down and stuff, and you had quite a few bands from different schools and stuff that would come and participate, and all the fire trucks from the township where once in a while we'd have somebody from the outsider come in and stuff like that. So that is October or into September. Then on October 14th, Sketty Dinner, that's coming up down there at the Lions Club, and that's from 4:30 to about 7 o'clock. And that is another big bash that we have and stuff like that. And some of you have been to the Sketty Dinner in the past. I'm sure you know what we serve out there and enjoy it and stuff. So we kind of look forward to seeing you down there also and stuff. So those are the two big events we've got coming down and stuff. So appreciate it. Participate and show it. So outside that, we haven't got too much going. So anything, any questions?
Any questions for Chief? Thank you. Okay, and next on our agenda under C, 10C, is superintendent report. Superintendent McKinley?
I want to start off by saying I've been here almost 5 months now, and I really appreciate the fact that I've been able to learn from the different department managers, the different operations that are ongoing here. It's just been a real eye-opening experience to experience this learning here. Really, it's I had no idea what really goes on at Township. So I'm going to get to the superintendent action plan, and since I wrote it this time, I'm just going to hit the high points, at least in my opinion. We continue to work with Revise to migrate to the new website. That should be completed in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, it's more user-friendly than they have been in the past. There was some difficulty I used to have navigating it, and so we've made recommendations to improve that. Again, lady brought up the hiring of the assessor in Pinfield. We were on their agenda, and there's a miscommunication between myself and their supervisor. I'm always looking to do what I believe is going to be the best thing for Bedford Township, and that's how I made the decision to offer the position to, or make the recommendation to offer the position of assessor to Ms. Michelle Story, who's in the audience. So, and also the second position of cemetery to Mr. Risky. Other things that we're working on, we continue to work on a budget, and I'd like to schedule a budget workshop before October 15th. I'm sorry, before October 5th. So to utilize the experience of the current supervisor as we are looking into the budget, the history, and making that workshop really work for participants and the residents so that there's a better understanding. Me coming from the outside is different because I don't have a historical background, and I think that her experience will help me a lot in this process. I'm going to veer off of the action plan and go to what I thought was successful last month. We don't have an ordinance to address block parties, and I was asking Officer Fickle about this earlier because I wasn't there, but I heard there was a lot of people that attended the block party, and from the participants, I heard really positive things. I didn't hear anything negative from the police department, besides they were surprised with the number of people. Joni and I have also worked to submit a grant that will be heard by the county board October 6th regarding the coffee and conversation.
I think by the senior millage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly, thank you. So that we can continue that process. It seems to be with a lot of participation from the seniors. They seem to have a good time when they come. I've only been doing this again 5 months, but I'm told that it picks up during the winter months. It gives the seniors the opportunity to get out of the house, to socialize, have donuts, and, you know, we talk about township business and we talk about other things. And so sometimes when individuals are coming in to pay their taxes, which a lot of them have done this week, we invite them to our, and I say we, I'm talking about everybody that works here, invites them to our coffee and conversations on Wednesday, which are, you know, primarily focused at seniors, but I don't know the return rate. I think that was it that I wanted to talk about besides Mayor Stevenson, and I was going to mention them, but they're here to do a presentation, so I will not try to steal your thunder.
All right, very good, thank you. And then we have, any questions for?
I do.
Yeah.
In reading through this, Dennis, during the budget portion, you state that you met with some resistance, or you were met with resistance, including lack of responsibility requests, lack of documentation, or no communications at all. Can you expound on that? Has that been resolved or what?
Well, I think it's going to be an ongoing process, to be honest with you. I came from an environment where we did everything electronic. And so I would send out meeting requests, and I didn't get responses. And I was asking, to be honest with you, I asked others, I said, why did you guys meet before? I was like, well, we really didn't have a lot of meetings, right? So they weren't used to my form of communication, so we were working through that. That is a challenge.
Think making progress?
I'm hopeful.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions for Superintendent McKinley?
Is there any documentation that you're still missing for budget?
Well, yes and no, because the documentation that I asked for, I did receive. However, like when I was talking about the budget workshop, I'm gonna need more documentation historically, because if you submit a budget to me and I don't know how it's been going previously, I'm kind of at a loss. That's why I'm looking forward to working with Joni and during these budget workshops.
And I think we had suggested, since we have them as consultants right now, I think I had suggested to you reaching out to Heather Farmer, and I'm not sure if you.
I haven't reached out to Heather yet, because I wasn't sure the questions that I needed to ask her at this point.
Okay.
So I figured, I work more with the department, so I'll figure those out.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, moving on to, building and zoning. Karen couldn't be here. She's struggling with some back issues. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I have so many notes on it, I kind of skipped right past you. I'm sorry, Mark. Building official. All right, sorry, then we'll go to building.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, it's surprisingly slow in the department right now. I talked to some of the other municipalities. They're seeing the same thing. During the period of time when we had supply chain problems and material was so expensive, it was going gangbusters and it didn't make any sense. But I'm really sure that the inflation and specifically the interest rate, so people can't borrow money very effectively right now, is really, we're probably as slow right now as we typically are in January. And I know Springfield told me yesterday they're in the same position. So it's just kind of area wide, and it'll be slow for a while and then it'll pick back up.
They stay slow over the winter, huh?
Oh, it's always generally really slow.
Okay, and then now, building and zoning, our interim, building and zoning administrator, Karen Lewis, couldn't be here tonight, struggling with some back issues, but she did send me a text just to say that the Hazen McGrow facility certificates were issued based on the board's approval last month. The backlog of building permits and the processing, all that is, she's trying to catch up with that. There's a lot to catch up with. She has met with Karen Scullion, the ZBA chair, this week to review the process of zoning applications and confirm the upcoming September ZBA meeting. So that's all set or getting set. And she's working with both the ZBA and PC chairs this week regarding their upcoming public hearings and getting the publications posted. And she's, again, apologizes for not being able to be here this evening. Okay, we have been advertising and will continue to advertise for code compliance officer. Mike Savio, as you know, has resigned. We may be trying to entice him before he goes down to Texas for the winter, entice him to come back for 1 day a week, because I can see that things are already starting to pile up, so until we can fill that position. But we are moving towards that. I think you had one person who might be interested contact you recently, so.
Right.
Okay. And Joyce Booville, the assessor, is not here tonight. As you said, we will be, Joyce is getting very close to retiring, so we'll be voting on a new assessor position, same position, but new assessor this evening. And then Planning Commission, Chair Stein, would you like to speak? We can move that out.
Thank you. So we have not had a meeting since the last board meeting, but we have been very busy getting ready for our public hearings. As Karen stated in her report, we got 2 that are scheduled for next week. One of them is the master plan public hearing, and then we have a marijuana application to go over as well. We are very busy with those right now. I know of probably, theoretically, there could be at least 2 more before the end of the year, public hearings that we need to do, which is going to put us at, I believe, 7 together for the year, which is a lot, going back to looking historically speaking. So we're very busy. We did have a very successful training last Thursday. We had the folks from the county come down and do a joint training. I believe there was a lot of good information there. And it was good that all the members from the ZBA and the Planning Commission were there, so that, those were really the 2 entities that we really wanted to reach out and get to, because there were so many new members on each side, and, newer members that I would like to take a minute to thank, I did it, and I'll do it again now, thank our supervisor for helping facilitate that at the end there. There is a lot of legwork that has to get done when you talk about putting three boards together at one time, one place. So I really appreciate her help with that. But I'll stay right here in the hot seat if you want to talk about
For Roads Advisory Committee, again, thank you, Mike.
Yes. So we've had 2 meetings. First meeting was about 2 months ago, and it was kind of an organizational meeting where we, got to know each other, kind of, go over some goals and objectives, and set out, a very rough timeline of what we thought, we might expect from ourselves, so that we can, hopefully, meet the board's expectations. We do have a meeting on the 17th, and then we do have a couple others that we scheduled out. The main focus that we have right now is kind of getting together the process of what we think, the role of the road advisory committee for the board is going to be, and what recommendations we, think we can make or not make, what that's going to look like, especially as far as like, oversight and control, being things that the township is most interested in, I think, and ways to, hopefully best facilitate that, that kind of thing. But we're very, very early on in that process. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that, we're gonna probably have to find a way to fund the roads. Everyone's familiar with the proposal from the county last year. We can't spend $5 million every 5 years on roads. That's just not gonna work, obviously. And we heard from Mr. Crispy, I think a few meetings ago, there was no increase in local road funding. So, everyone's gonna have to get very creative, and we will obviously try and assist with the creativity as best we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions for Mike at all? Okay. All right, thank you. And then our fearless chair of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, Danielle Zollner.
Thank you for having me again. I just wanted to go over a few dates and remind everyone that we should be hearing back on our DNR Spark grant proposals for Steep, Algonquin, and Brookside Parks sometime late September, early October. We are also starting to work on a new pre-proposal to submit to the DNR October 20th. And this is for a separate opportunity for the fisheries habitat grant. And this is so the township can address the stream restoration and bank stabilization in Steep Sherman Park along Wabascan Creek. We learned some good lessons, I think, from our submission last year that was ultimately not asked to submit a full proposal, but we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll be able to actually be asked to submit that full proposal on January 12th. So that's what the timeline kind of looks like for the fisheries habitat. We're also starting to talk with the superintendent about revising the current park plan for submission to the DNR in winter 2025 to more accurately reflect our park resources and also reflect the citizen feedback that we've accumulated through the surveys that we're collecting and continue to collect. If you have not filled out the survey and you want to let us know what you want us to do with the parks, please scan the code and let us know. Please, please, please. Your feedback is very important. We're actually using it in the master plan as well as when we write these grants to the DNR to redevelop our parks. Okay. And we're really hoping to provide a comprehensive master plan for this next 5 years so that we can continue to work together towards upgrading our park resources, really with a mind to cleanliness, accessibility, and safety, which are the top ranked issues that have been identified by citizens that have filled out the survey, okay? Now on to the important stuff, Fall Festival we have coming up. Thank you, Chief, for giving us a heads up on the Fall Festival. Like he said, September 30th from 10:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Steve Sherman Memorial Park. We're excited to invite the entire community and everybody up here at the table. We hope to see you out that day. We're going to start off with a community parade that'll be, go at 10:30 a.m. We'll be leaving from the Gull Lake Virtual Partnership School building and going around that triangle. If you would like to participate in the parade, we'll be lining up around 10 a.m. And we ask that you do please fill out a registration form. We have them online on our Facebook group, or there's also paper copies of that registration form for both the parade and the chili cook-off right here. If you have a cool tractor, if you have a motorcycle, a classic car, or you just want to walk in a fun costume, please come out and have fun with us. And then thank you to Battle Creek officers as well as the fire department for leading the parade and helping bring up the end. And they'll also be down in the park to talk with kids in our community about what they do and how they potentially could become first responders or officers in the community. The chili cook-off competition is heating up. We've got 4 of our 12 chef spots that are spoken for. And the descriptions so far sound delicious. If you know a great chili chef or any of you are that person, please fill out an application. The Bedford Masonic Lodge is sponsoring this, and we're offering a $100 prize and a big fancy trophy without a toilet on it this year. and both the prize and the trophy goes to the best chili chef in Bedford. Winner takes it all this year. So we're looking forward to that. Like I said, just see our Facebook group for links to the digital registration forms if you like to do stuff over the computer. If you don't like to do stuff over the computer, we've got plenty of paper forms right out here in the offices, and you can fill that out and just hand it in. I have a little folder back there that they're supposed to put it in. And the committee is really hoping that everyone in the community feels welcome and has a good time with their family and friends, listening to music and having fun in the park. And on that note, I also wanted to take a moment to address 2 things pretty head on. First, Mr. Moore and Consumers has generously offered to sponsor the inflatable attractions for the Fall Festival. Some have suggested that maybe I shouldn't accept the sponsorship because of the solar project and the ordinance. My open and public response to this is that I recommended accepting this donation on behalf of the community. Despite consumers' position on the ordinance, Mr. Moore contacted me about sponsorship after the board meeting adopting the new ordinance. He did not have to do that, and I respect that he was able to put that aside and stepped up to do something for the community. And personally, my opinion is that this community has around 3,900 households and several businesses, plus our township offices and fire station that pays consumers for their power needs. And all of us have been doing this for decades. And with a net income of $827 million in 2022, I think sponsoring a couple bounce houses and a few other inflatable attractions is the least that consumers can and should be doing for this community. Most importantly, I want everyone to know that I came into this role as a volunteer on the Parks Committee, unaware of the volatility in the township. This last year has been extremely eye-opening, to say the least, and it has been a real bummer for the committee and the community to have to deal with the impact of this. I hope that everyone in this room can make a promise to me and all the other volunteers that have been working hard in service to our community that it is understood community events are not the time or place for airing of grievances to instigate drama while putting video cameras in people's faces. If this does happen, I hope that people will remain calm and not escalate the situation. This is supposed to be a fun, family-friendly event meant to foster community and inspire interest in what our parks have to offer. Okay. Those are my expectations at a park event from here on out. And I hope everyone is okay with it.
Good
job.
Okay, and then moving on to item K, legislative and intergovernmental relations. I see Representative Hodsma, I believe, here in the back. Representative.
Good evening. First, let me thank you, Supervisor Jones, for your service. I wish you well going forward from here. And second, I want to thank the supervisor and the superintendent and the board for trying again a recycling effort. I'm disappointed that it has failed again, but I really applaud the supervisor, the superintendent, and the board for trying recycling here once more. Thirdly, in relation to Bedford Township activity, I'm indeed very excited that the gas station at M89 and Custer Drive is going to be finally taken down in October. That's a long-time eyesore, and I'm pleased that the township has been after the county treasurer's office to ensure that the land bank does eventually, hopefully next month, pull that down. In relation to state activity, in context of your declaration about you wish that the local control over placement of solar panels be maintained, I will tell you that I have been steadfastly opposed to state making decisions in relation to where gravel pits are placed. As many of you know, over the last several terms, there has been legislation in Michigan about placement of gravel pits with regulation of placement not by township or the municipality, but rather by the state. That has not gained traction to pass all the time I've been there, and since I'm consistently opposed to it this term, as it filed again as a new bill this session, I think it is philosophically consistent, unless somebody can demonstrate to me otherwise,
that I would oppose state regulation of where solar panels should be placed, and support continued, township and municipality regulation of where solar panels should be placed. Today in, Labor Committee, we heard testimony only in relation to township and municipality regulation of where solar panels should be placed. Today in, Labor Committee, we heard testimony only in relation to whether local governments and fire departments can enter negotiations in relation to safe staffing. I'm hopeful that that might become a mandatory subject to bargaining, so that fire departments and fire staff can get together on what would be most safe for firefighters and for citizens in the community. I'm also chair of something called JCAR, which is the Joint Commission on Administrative Rules. And it doesn't meet very often. Our role is essentially to step in if governmental agencies haven't done their duty in relation to making rules, and there's a determination that we should step in at the 12th hour and say, no, you have to go back and undertake this rules process. I mention this because I would say in the last several weeks there have been several, I know it's been on Instagram, memes about Lansing politicians trying to preclude people from undertaking fantasy gaming. And I want to clarify that we're not whatsoever trying to abolish fantasy gaming. We're rather trying to ensure that it's regulated appropriately in Michigan, rather than out-of-state interests coming in and trying to ensure that fantasy gaming can enhance their pocketbooks in places like New York and New Jersey. And then Proposal 1 was passed last November. It's my expectation that this term, this autumn, we will be making laws providing for transparency so that legislators will disclose sources of income, other employments, possibly even, depending upon how this bill is written, family income and family other sources of employment, to make sure that we don't have any conflicts of interest in Lansing by legislators sent to Lansing to represent the citizens of Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the House? All right, thank you. Next we have Commissioner Frisbee is here. Prosecutor Gilbert, would you like to speak first?
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Sorry to hear you're going. It's been a pleasure knowing you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the state level. I come to see you guys once a year. I'm Dave Gilbert, I'm your county prosecutor. You know, if I plug everything that's going on in our office, I could probably keep you here till midnight or so, so I'll just stick to one point. Over the summer, we finished up our last juvenile life case. A few years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court said that juveniles receiving life without parole automatically was cruel and unusual punishment. So they required every juvenile life that was in prison now to actually have a hearing to determine whether or not they should get life without parole. Life without parole is only for first-degree murder. First-degree murder is premeditated and deliberate murder. First-degree murder is the murder of a police officer or the murder of someone during the commission of specified felonies. The last one we had was in July. We had 9 pending. Out of the 9, only one of those received life without parole. The other ones were required to receive a term of years, anywhere from 25 to 40 years as a minimum, up to 60 years. The Michigan Supreme Court got involved, and they're the ones that came up with the 25 to 40 years as a minimum, and 60 as a maximum. And they required us to prove that these are the people that cannot be rehabilitated at all. And like I said, only one person was found to fit in that category in Calhoun County. It isn't important what feels the Supreme Court isn't going to change that. But that person was 16 years old when you lured a 5-year-old girl into an abandoned building, raped her, put a hatchet in her head, killed her, and then raped her again. So chances are he probably can't be rehabilitated. We have to show clear and convincing evidence that he couldn't be rehabilitated. The court agreed with us. The reason I bring that up is our state legislature currently has legislation pending. They're actually looking at bills both in the House and in the Senate in Michigan to make juvenile lifers eligible to parole after 10 years. So if they murder a police officer when they're 16, 17, 18 years old, and they'll be eligible for parole after 10 years. I've already spoken to Mr. Hosma. He's aware of it. Other people need to be aware of it. If you have other representatives, your senator, contact them, let them know what you think. That you're talking about 17-year-olds, you're talking about 18-year-olds, 16, 15, on down. But very rarely do you see an 11 or 12-year-old charged with first-degree premeditated murder or murder during commission of some other felony. Right now, though, just earlier this year, Jack Snyder was murdered by a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old. So one of those had a gun, one of them shot him. The one who didn't have a gun probably is not going to be getting life without parole, but under new standards, the 14-year-old probably won't be getting it either if he's found guilty. So that's where we're at. If you have questions for me on something else, I'm here.
Any questions? Do you know what the House bills those are?
Yes. There's Senate Bill 119 through 123 and House Bill 4160 through 4164.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. That's what we'll see.
Thank you. Commissioner Frisbee?
Thank you. At our last meeting, we did approve the articles of incorporation for the countywide transportation. It includes a local opt-in or opt-out clause, as you know, and you have until October 9th to notify us what you want to do. Last night, Penfield opted out. They reversed course from their original opt-in. When it was cold, they decided they're going to sit back and watch for a minute and see what happens. Believe Emmett is addressing the issue tonight. And I know Congress opted out. The rest of it, of the townships, we have not heard officially yet. So I think there's going to be a pretty high opt-out rate, which is fine. That's why we created it, so the locals could have that control. Back in July, I attended a groundbreaking ceremony for the Calhoun County Juvenile Home, and that is so we can both upgrade and add on to what's going on there. Dave just talked quite a bit about children, and there's been some rulings about where they can be housed. And we have murderers in the youth center currently. So detainees with, that are 16, 17 years old, hanging out with 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds. So this addition will help us separate and get better lines for those age differences and age appropriateness where they can be together and where they shouldn't be together, and create better opportunities for safety for those that are there, the staff. So look forward to having that completed. And that'll be completed in the next year, I think. So we started our budget process. We've already started it. We started in July. We have budget hearings coming up. Dave always enjoys those. When they come in and we give them targets to try to hit, and we try to work with them, the elected officials and department heads, to those targets where we need them to be. Any questions?
One question, just because it's going to be coming up, and I really am not sure how the board is going to vote on this, but the opt-out resolution, I know there had been some changes with it in terms of it now is a 9-member board, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and if I'm not, I think I'm correct about this, there's no guarantee of representation by, if Bedford said we're gonna try it, we're gonna be in, there's no guarantee that Bedford has a seat on that board, a representative on that
I
board.
don't believe there's a guarantee.
Right. And so can you tell me the composition of the board?
Off
I
the
mean,
top
in
of my
terms of
head,
the numbers,
no,
yeah.
the county commission has, the city commission, county administration, city administration, and I believe Marshall and Albion, if they
As
both opt
cities.
in.
the Marshall city, so all the cities have representation. And whatever's left then is rotating through whatever townships opt in.
Yeah.
So I guess one of my concerns about this, besides not knowing how it will serve a rural community like ours, is that Bedford potentially, number one, Bedford could vote on this. If we opt in, all we're doing is saying we're gonna be part of it, and there's gonna be a vote, right, for a millage, most likely.
Potentially, yes, I would agree most likely.
If Bedford has a 70% rate of voters that say, no, we don't want this millage, we're taxed enough.
Yeah.
Bedford's still in if everybody.
If it passes, so
Okay.
the members vote as a collective.
Right.
It's like a countywide vote at that point, but only the members in the collective that have opted in.
Correct.
Yep.
Got that. So I have that's concerning to me because we do, as Danielle said, I mean, I like the idea that people would have transportation, and I am concerned for people that don't. But we have no real control necessarily. We would be taxed really without representation on that board.
If you join
that
it.
authority.
If you join it.
Correct. Okay. I think you answered my question.
It's still a public body, it is, you know, responsible for the entire system, so you would have a say, but you would not have a vote.
We would not have an appointee to that board. Okay.
The last thing I had was, Mike made a comment, I think it was about the road funding.
Yes.
Well, there's actually been some movement, and I don't think it's been voted on yet, am I correct? In the total package for road funding for counties?
You're correct.
Yeah, so it was anywhere from 250 million to almost 400 million for 83 counties. Now, they'll have to go through the formula. By the time they're all done with that, it'll be a watered down mess. That's 3.8% of a $9 billion surplus that they began the year with. 3.8 that they're put into infrastructure. That's really not enough. But I think they've already committed the other spending, that's about all it is. And that we can try to direct into local, primary local roads, to try to keep things moving along.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on, good information there. Now we have, thank you for being so patient, Bethany. We have our presentations, number 11. We have the financial processes review, findings and recommendation from Bethany Verbal. She's a CPA, CFA, senior manager, right?
Yes.
This is Maynard Costeras, thank you for being here.
That's my pleasure. So you do have in front of you a draft report. It has not been finalized. So that is, you know, still available for questions, anything like that. It is a 70+ page report. So we are not going to go through every page. The superintendent, clerk, treasurer, and I did have a meeting to go over it, and we did go through almost every single page. So feel compassion for them. So as part of our report, we start everything that we do, and you should have, I realize it's probably difficult for the board to see behind, but you should have the PowerPoint slides in front of you. So this is largely what I will be presenting from. So with any sort of internal control report or efficiency report, it all comes back to the fraud triangle. That is not saying that we have any concerns. What it is saying is that we, as a body of certified fraud examiners, of CPAs, have said in any type of fraud, there are 3 elements which are part of the triangle. So when we put together internal control recommendations, when we put together efficiency recommendations, everything that we think about comes back to how can we make sure that we are breaking the legs of this triangle? How can we best protect the township's resources? So any of the recommendations that are in this report are either to strengthen the internal controls or increase the efficiency of the township. If we're looking at increasing efficiency, we're also going to come back to this because we never want to increase efficiency at the risk of increasing risk. So when you are looking through your report, keep that in mind when you see that. So as part of our report, we include 2 different matrices. So this is your control matrix. This serves a variety of purposes. Part of it is because different people absorb information in different ways. Some people want to read my 70-page report. Some people want kind of a broader overview of, well, what are you talking about here, Bethany? So that's kind of purpose one of the matrix. This is also to help us prioritize. So we have a lot of recommendations. Every municipality that I work with has a lot of recommendations. I was actually a financial statement auditor for about 7 years, largely focused on local governments. So we have recommendations that are pretty common. But you never want to do an overnight overhaul because you're setting yourself up for failure if you try and change everything all at once. So how do we know where to start? That's part of what this matrix is for, is to say, okay, if it's all the way to the right-hand side and all the way at the top, that's probably where we want to focus. It's increasing our risk, and if something were to go wrong, it's going to have a pretty significant impact. If it's all the way in the bottom left, it's a good idea. It'll help us strengthen our internal controls, but that's not where we want to focus. So that's really the kind of dual purpose of the matrix, and there is a separate one for the efficiency as well. So I'm just going to briefly go through each of the recommendations. All of this is in your draft report. So these are all internal control recommendations. So the first one, we want to have a documented and followed bank reconciliation process. You will find throughout this presentation, I love the word documentation, and I love process and procedure. All of that really just helps strengthen our internal controls. Kind of along those lines of, again, strengthening internal controls, positive pay. So one of the things we suggest in the efficiency section is looking at increasing our electronic payment options. But there are still going to be some things that we pay via check. I haven't come across a single organization yet that is totally electronic. So positive pay is something that we can implement through our accounting software and through our bank that provides further protection for township resources. We also want to have a formally documented cash handling process. I suggest some additional controls over vendor onboarding. I also suggest periodic vendor audits. This is kind of what it sounds like. We take vendor data, we run some data analytics on it, and it helps us determine if there are any vendors that maybe hadn't want to be there. So it's really just kind of a double check and gut check on our vendors. We do want to implement a formal credit card use policy. The township does have a few credit cards, not significant use by any stretch of the imagination, but always best to have that. And since we have a credit card, let's make it work for us. It's a great idea to be part of a credit card rewards program, but if you're going to do that, we're going to do my favorite thing. We're going to document and we're going to have a process, which is part of the credit card use policy. And keep in mind, that is part of the reason this report is so long. Is any policy that we recommend, any process that I want you to implement, proposed policies and processes are all in here. So you're not starting from scratch. They are customized what I would recommend for the township. Obviously, any policies, anything like that will have to be adopted by the board, but this is what I would suggest based on the township. So continuing on with control recommendations, just beefing up our payroll review process. Not to say that there aren't controls in place, but I think we can make them stronger. Looking at our pay time off tracking, again, just kind of strengthening that process. I do suggest periodic, at least annually, review of who has access to the accounting and bank system. We just want to make sure that only authorized people are on there at all times. Cybersecurity review and training, that is huge right now for everyone, municipalities, nonprofits, for-profits, everybody. So occasionally doing like a cybersecurity audit, penetration testing, having training for our staff. There's access to a lot of information at the township, so we want to make sure we're protected as much as possible. Beefing up our conflict of interest policy, we do also want to implement a fraud risk management policy. And I sometimes get some blank stares with that one because it seems silly. Like you want me to implement a policy, Bethany, that says don't commit fraud. I do actually, but this policy also includes language related to whistleblower. So if someone has concerns about fraudulent activity, where do they go to? Probably their supervisor. Well, what if their direct supervisor is the person they're concerned about? Where Where do I go from there? So it provides all of that guidance. We also want to have a password requirement policy, again, kind of coming back to that cybersecurity. And then the last few control recommendations, ongoing staff training. Nothing that you do at this township is super easy and straightforward, and a lot of things change all the time. I'm actually speaking in a couple of weeks at a clerk's retreat, and so what I suggest is doing ongoing staff training. Budgeting that and making sure that our elected officials and our township staff have access to that training, which goes right along with recommendation P, which is board training. This is a lot harder to coordinate, but it's also extremely valuable. You guys have a super important job. You know that. So doing at least annual training on best practices, on changes in your industry, all of that is a really, really great idea. Consider implementing a finance committee. So typically with municipalities, a lot of the in-depth discussion about or around finances, budget, that sort of thing, can kind of live within the finance committee. So that's something we do recommend implementing. Implementing an investment policy. So if the township does have any formal investments, all of that would fall under that. This does not include CDs, so keep in mind that certificates of deposits are technically considered cash, but investment policy would be if we ever invested in something like my class. We do want to implement federal policies and procedures. So you all received ARPA funding, you adopted the required procedures for that. But in the accountant world, and thus in the federal revenue world, the minute you accept a single dollar of federal funding, you are supposed to have formal documented federal policies and procedures. A lot of what you're doing is already covering that. But there are areas that, truthfully, are probably never going to apply to us. But as part of the grant agreements, they say you need to at least have these policies in case it happens. So again, all of that's in here. And then a travel policy. We don't have a ton of travel, but for trainings, for certain things that might need to happen within the township, I just recommend having a travel policy. So before we talk about efficiencies, I know I went through that quick. Questions? Yes.
The issue that I have with, like, for example, an EFT process is the trustees get a copy of the revenue and expenditure report and check the disbursement. We then get a copy of the EFTs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Other questions? Yeah.
What would be the recommended number of members for finance committee?
I usually recommend 3 to 4. Anything more than that, and you're basically at a board meeting. Anything less than that, and you're really going to get done. Other questions on
I think
controls?
it says in here, but the composition of that, is it, do you recommend one board member on that, or the finance committee?
So yes, typically it includes the superintendent and clerk and treasurer.
Okay. No, like, so there's nothing statutorily that requires anyone in this township office, elected official, or their deputies to have any background in accounting or finances. So I'm just wondering about, if that's the case, and it's not going to change statutorily, it's not. I wish it would, but having somebody who is in the community who's an accountant or something like that.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions before we talk about efficiency? Okay. So back to our matrix. Again, if we're all the way on the top right, let's do this now. If we're all the way on the bottom left, we can do it, not tomorrow. So looking at efficiencies, talking about ACH, EFT transactions, they are more efficient. I will tell you right now, they are also more secure. Your officer was talking about people stealing mail from mailboxes. I never would have expected this, but I have seen more check fraud in the past 6 months than I should see in 2023. So from a security standpoint, the ACH transactions, at least right now, are more secure. There are additional additional safeguards that you can set up within your banking system and within your accounting system that still requires the dual approval that you currently have on checks with both the clerk and the treasurer signing them. So we're still gonna have solid internal controls, but we can be more efficient. Payroll processing, we're currently using ADP, awesome software, but the township utilizes BSNA as the general ledger software. ADP doesn't talk to BSNA. So we have a lot of manual back and forth between those two softwares. So I would recommend looking, and I know the superintendent has kind of started looking at that, but I would recommend moving more towards using BSNA payroll. Still has really great controls. It's still going to do everything and more than you need, but it's actually going to talk to your general ledger. Another thing just to consider, look at like an expense reimbursement, credit card management software. You guys don't have a lot of that, so it might not be something that you need to implement right away. It's in the bottom left, but it's something to think about. Again, looking at our credit cards, look at our credit card limit review. I actually typically recommend a blanket credit card limit for all holders in the township. What you see a lot of times is each individual have $1,000. Well, someone had to put $1,500 this time. So we had to call and increase their limit. And then someone else needed $2,000 the next month, so we had to call and increase that. If we have a blanket, then it can kind of be allocated amongst cardholders. Again, looking at credit card integration, kind of along the same lines of expense reimbursement, credit card management, there are softwares that will integrate very well with your accounting software, so there's not hand entry. We don't have a ton of credit card transactions right now. Might not make sense for us right now, but it's something to keep in mind if that changes. And looking at personnel files, I actually recommend that those be maintained and backed up electronically. There is an HR module in BSNA. It's good. I don't know based on the size of the township that I would necessarily recommend implementing that. But I do think having things electronic makes it a lot more accessible. So continuing with efficiencies, looking at our check depositing process, we do have the ability to scan checks so that instead of waiting for a bank deposit or having to take all the checks, we can scan them, they're immediately deposited. There are a variety of benefits to that, so it is something I recommend. Looking at our budgeting process, I know you guys are in the throes of that right now. So really tightening up, what does our budget process look like? What's our timeline? All of those sorts of things. Quarterly budget amendments, you are only required to do them once a year. Best practice is doing it quarterly because a lot can change between quarter one and quarter two. So it just is a lot easier to do those amendments throughout the year as activities happen. I would suggest that the township go through the strategic planning process. It's really hard to govern to the best of our abilities. We don't quite know what our goal is. What is the goal of the township? So I would absolutely recommend a formal strategic plan. And then implementing a capital asset policy and periodically throughout the year updating our capital assets. This is sort of like an auditor kind of mindset here, but capital assets, they're everyone's least favorite thing. So if we can do them throughout the year, then we're not just doing the grunt work at the end of the year. And then the last couple of efficiency recommendations, record retention policy. Municipalities automatically are required to follow the state of Michigan's record retention policy. I do recommend the board formally say, yes, we do that. Purchasing and bid policy, we want to make sure that we have that and it will lay out in that policy exactly when are we able to, when are we required to do concealed or sealed bids? When are we required to get formal quotes? When are we required to, make sure it's a good price, but we don't have to go through all the rigmarole? So that lays all of that out. The policy that I have included in here does follow federal guidelines as far as micro purchasing, small purchases, large purchases. And then, sort of along the lines with our internal control recommendations, BSNA training. It's an awesome software. And you can use it at varying levels of comfort, but there's a lot that it can do for us. So having some of that formal training, here's how you do these sorts of things, here's what else you can do. So kind of wrapping that in with our training. And then I do recommend finally that the township implement a fund balance policy. This basically says, you know, if we want to have a reserve of a certain amount, here's what that reserve is going to be. Here's what our township policy is on assigning funds, on committing funds, what are we going to use first. There are general guidelines, but each municipality really should have their own adopted fund balance policy. So with that, questions over efficiencies or other things you thought about on internal controls?
I have a company. So I did reach out to BSNA to find out about the payroll program. The one that is server-based is 5,600. That's the base, and then it's added on to. However, they're not offering that anymore. They're only offering cloud-based, which is about 2,800, but with the training and the setup, it works out to about 12,000. But in order to get cloud-based, you have to convert all of your server-based, which is over parts right now, to cloud-based, which comes in at about 35,000. So that's, they're not offering what we have, the product we have now.
Yep.
And they couldn't convert over until probably March, is their target.
Yes. So, I will tell you that it is moving to cloud-based. Obviously the township needs to make the decision that is right for you guys. Eventually, if we continue to use BSNA, I would project that you will have to switch to cloud-based. I don't know what the pricing
He said
model.
within the next 10 years, everyone's gonna move to cloud-based, 8 to 10 years.
So in 8 years, it's probably gonna be a lot cheaper. You know, so those are all things to consider. If that is something that we decide, hey, I don't know that we really wanna explore, you know, that kind of pricing level right now, then I would still recommend, that we look at some other payroll options, that could better integrate with BSNA. There are import options within that software. So yeah.
Within ADP.
Or a different product.
Or a different product to talk with BSNA, the general.
You have to ask BSNA which they're compatible with.
Well, no, okay, the ones that are coming, yeah, okay, so.
Most payroll systems have pretty standard exports as far as, you know, the information that they will export. Certain platforms absolutely are gonna integrate better with BSNA, who's gonna favor their own, you know.
Yeah.
So some will integrate better than others. I think the ADP plan that we have right now is relatively basic. So either way, we're gonna wanna increase kind of the level that we're at to have better integration, but yes, there will be some that will integrate better.
Which would improve the efficiency, correct? I mean, in terms of the amount of.
We're doing a lot of manual entry right now.
Yeah.
Into payroll, into the general ledger, you know, all of that is coming through manual journal entries.
Right, yeah.
I'm never gonna recommend manual journal entries for payroll.
Right.
So even if BSNA is not quite where we want to spend our funds yet, we have better options.
Okay, so we'll touch base with that.
Yes.
Kind of what direction you guys, how old are servers?
So we have 7 servers.
Yeah, BC3 is evaluating that. We do have a lot of servers and they're, and some of them are older. And so that's in the process of being evaluated in terms of what we would recommend. Of course, that's costly too. So there's a lot. I talked to Dennis a little bit. I said, this is part of the budget planning, but you're correct. A strategic plan would be helpful. You know, Stephen Covey, you can't get to where you're going if you don't know where you're going. So let's begin with the end in mind. I think having the master plan is going to help us with that. You know, okay, we've got this framework. You know, so how do we develop a strategic plan? And all of this is so good. I do want to say thank you so much because the policies here, which you're recommending, I mean, they're really there for us right now. So would you recommend that first, like developing or appointing a finance mean, we can't do this right away, but we wanna start implementing, you know, a policy manual for the financial. This has been so good, but if we don't use the processes, you know, having sitting in a manual is not gonna, do us any real good.
Yep.
So would that be the first stop you would
So
recommend?
yeah, typically, detailed policy discussion over things that are specifically related to finance would happen at the finance committee level. Not to say it can't happen at the full board level, and obviously the finance committee will bring recommendations to the board. But yes, that is typically where it would start.
It's been very helpful, and I did print out, the board all got this, and I also think it's on the website, as part of the packet that we weren't gonna print out. We weren't gonna print out everything for, but it's, yeah, I've gone through it, it's very helpful, so I do appreciate it. Any other questions for Stephanie? Okay, thank you so much.
And I did include my contact information. If, as you're digesting, you do have questions, please let me know. We will finalize in the next, couple weeks. But if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to answer.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. And do feel free to start driving back. You don't have to say.
I will head back, I won't lie.
Thank you. All right, appreciate that. Okay, so moving on, we have, I don't know, unfinished business number 12. Mike, do you have anything else on the master plan to, you just said it's gonna be a public hearing.
So we posted, we're gonna have a public hearing, Tuesday the 26th, 6:30. The purpose of that public hearing obviously is to hear comment from one and all. We're gonna have that posted next week, well in advance, so please take a look. If you can't be there, please submit your, comments in writing. We will read them if there are any.
What time is that starting at?
6:30. That'll probably be the first thing that we do. So if you don't wanna stay for everything else, that's fine. But yeah, no, this is kind of, it's been a very long haul. We did have to switch, those that were at the training know that Raphael is not our planner anymore. He's moved on to other endeavors, but I have met Chris Corey, I've talked to him already a few times, and I think we're in good hands there. And this is the time, if you have a comment, this is that time to make it. That's what the public hearing is for, so we look forward to hopefully seeing as many people as possible.
All right, thank you. And then, budget planning, you kind of already went over that, Superintendent McKinley. So the board should be looking for solicitation of some dates in terms of, public, or, workshops, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, anything else you want to add to that?
Nope.
Okay, thanks. Okay, moving on to our, business then, petitions and new business, item 13. Resolution 9/14/2349, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to accept the resignation of Supervisor Jones effective October 5th, 2023. And the resignation letter is in the packet. You've also all received that via email. Do I have a motion? Motion. Miller? Second? Dan? Thank you, Craig. And, no other discussion, we discussed, right? Discussion. Okay, roll call?
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones, you
Yes.
vote on your own?
Yes.
Clerk Baracco.
Yes.
Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Sadly, yes.
Trustee Beamish.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
7 yes. Motion carried.
All right, and then, the next item is resolution 9/14/2350, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to authorize the superintendent to sign and serve as the authorized representative for the Charter Township of Bedford for the River Road Water Project beginning October 5th, 2023, following the resignation of the supervisor. Beamish and Dingman. Discussion. As I said, we have to have someone, on file with Eagle, so this at least places someone there until, we have, a newly appointed or elected supervisor. Who was the second one? Was it,
Jalen.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, no other, discussion? Okay, roll call?
Supervisor Jones?
Yes.
Clerk Baraco? Yes. Treasurer Miller?
Yes.
Trustee Hires?
Yes.
Trustee Beamish?
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood?
Yes.
Trustee Dingman?
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you. And then, resolution 9/14/2351, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to opt out of the newly formed Transportation Authority of Calhoun County, or also referred to as TAC. The full resolution is in your board.
That's a move.
Okay, Board Beamish, Dingman. Again, discussion.
Discussion. I got a call from a resident. It was okay. Okay, I had a call from a resident. He did all the numbers, by what they gave us. Basically, they were gonna make like $300,000, but they were gonna require to about 2 million from the government to keep going, and that's gonna be every year indefinitely. And he said, well, it's a new project, let's go look at somebody that's got one running. Well, Kalamazoo's got one running, and he basically dived into those numbers, and they're $3 million short continuously. So, honestly, it looks like it's completely government funded, which not only are you gonna pay for it on one set of taxes, but then you're gonna pay for it again on a millage. So I don't recommend it on those merits.
Right, and I think actually even in her presentation, it shows the heavy funding, from the federal government and the support, the subsidization of it. Any other discussion? Yes.
Just that, like with the road commission, if we can better drive the jobs, that sort of thing, if we have decent roads, and roads will affect everyone, not just a few folks that might take advantage of the services. As far as the poverty type aspect of that, so I don't know where the Amish are on income. They hire drivers to facilitate their lifestyle. So there's Ubers, there's all that kind of stuff out there. And I just hate to put the burden of another government program on taxpayers that aren't gonna get any benefit from it.
Right, and I see a couple of points from, I had one lady that called me who was for it, I had one person call me who was against it. And we did post it, we wanted feedback from people about what they like, but, and I too have concerns about people who may feel somewhat isolated and feel like they can't get out of their homes. I mean, there was a time in our society where neighbors were helping neighbors, church members were helping church members, family members were helping family members. We weren't quite as dependent on thinking the government should do this for us. I know times have changed and that's sad, but I also know that those same people, the elderly people, are often on very low incomes and fixed incomes. And so adding another tax, even though Bedford's relatively low, it's creeping up. And we are, as Mike said, I don't know how we get around it. We have to have good roads. I think you're gonna see probably a request for a millage increase for roads. Are they gonna crumble again? Because we're not gonna get funding, enough funding. So the other thing is, and I think, in fact, I had talked with the Penfield supervisor about this. I was surprised they opted out, but I talked about what my concerns were. And the other thing is, it's not, opting out does not mean we can never go back in. So if we find that, hey, we're looking at another rural community who did opt in, and it's being served really well, the taxes haven't gone up, you can always, a new board can always come back later and say, we want to try it. I don't like the idea that it's taxation without representation. There's no one from this community is guaranteed to be on that authority. I don't like that power of the authority, that they're not even an elected body. Those sit there appointed. So there's just a lot of hesitation that I have with it. So my vote is tonight is going to be a no on this. And again, just the idea that we could have a community, our community, that could vote it down 70% even, and we would still not have any choice. We would be taxing it. And right now they're saying somewhere around 1 mil. It could go up to 1.1 mil. They're having a hard time getting drivers right now for the transportation that they do have in the city, and so I don't see how you attract people to that job without increasing pay. So when you increase pay and benefits, that's also going to increase the need for more revenue for that. So I do feel for the people that want this, and I do feel for the people who, they're struggling to get rides. I really do. But I don't want to put another tax burden on our residents. That's
I think someone said it earlier that increased tax is a greater deterrent than transportation, not having transportation. So I think we have a lot of people that live close to poverty in our township, and I think adding more taxes isn't the answer. I think if I had a clearer picture of, I don't even know how they're gonna do it. Are there bus stops? Are there vehicles? Where are those going to be? Medford is pretty spread out.
I was at the meeting and they're dispatched out, and that's my concern. I think the big municipalities are gonna utilize them a lot more because they're shorter runs. And you're gonna find those out here in Bedford and Penfield.
That's what I mean as well.
We could pick up 5 people locally in the time we go out and get this one person out here. So we're gonna be paying our share and not being utilizing our share.
I feel that as well. So I know there are other ways of getting around. There are different companies that you can call for rides.
Yeah, you're right, there is Uber, but I'll tell you right now, at the end of the day today, I had 90% of the taxes in, which is great, but consider that 1 in 10 people can't pay their taxes at the end of the tax day, and we're talking about raising taxes.
And it's 1 mil, that's, yes.
Okay, any other discussion? Are we ready to go? All right, roll call.
Treasurer Miller.
No.
Trustee Hires.
No.
Oh, wait, we are voting to,
Oh, yeah,
we're voting
you're
to
right.
opt out. So it's gonna be kind of a reverse, so just so you're clear, a yes vote, it means that we are opting out. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I meant to clarify that before we started, so sorry. Okay. Yes. Roll call. Okay.
Treasurer Miller.
Yes to the no.
Yes to the
no. Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Demus.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Damon.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes. 7 yes. Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is Resolution 9/14/2352, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to accept the recommendation of Superintendent McKinley to hire Michelle Story for the assessor position for a salary of $35,000 to replace Joyce Fundal, who is retiring. Do you have a motion?
Motion. Miller.
Support.
Damon, and discussion.
How does, from the field,
I believe, Joyce Fundal was part of the interview process, and, she feels positively.
Exactly, my wording exactly. I included her in the process because I wanted to add that experience.
And what kind of hours would be? Somewhere hours should be in 1 day a week and?
Yes.
Very similar to what is currently happening in the township.
Mark, we definitely wanted to provide, similar, if not better, customer service, and Fomo was doing an excellent job, so we definitely had that in consideration as we did that.
Very good. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, any other, so again, this is, just to clarify, this is not a shared position with Penfield. That is something that you also interviewed, a potential candidate there, also talked to the supervisor there. But in looking at that, which would have included sharing benefits, that took us way out of any kind of pay range, that we were comfortable with. Ms. Story has sounds great. So, and she's here tonight, so we're grateful for that. Any other
Will Joyce agree to be there for some behind the scenes training also?
Yes.
I think we're gonna have a
Not
little.
that you need training, but.
No, but we'll have a
She
little,
knows the system.
we'll overlap time in here,
Thank you.
so. Okay, ready to vote? Roll call?
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
Trustee Bemis.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carries.
Congratulations and welcome aboard. Okay, resolved, resolution 9/14/23, 53, the resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to accept the recommendation of Superintendent McKinley to hire Justin Thor Risty for the open position of cemetery sexton, building and grounds maintenance for a salary of $38,500 and benefits. He will be full-time.
So moved.
Support.
Greenwood hires. Discussion?
So, start date. Is that immediately, is that?
He's already, with us, so yes, I'd like to start immediately upon, successful, background check.
Alright, so that may, I don't know that you've got have you figured out how that, what company?
Yeah, I talked with, he was lieutenant at the time, but now he's deputy chief, Bagwell.
Bagwell. Okay, so we'll move forward with that, okay. Okay, I think you would want, we're hoping 27th or,
I just know he is, off next week. So I don't think he wouldn't start it when he's off.
Correct.
okay.
So the next,
It'll be
27th,
Sounds good, yeah, which is the following Monday, correct?
it's a Wednesday.
Wednesday?
And it's,
okay?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's just worked out with, cause we don't have one for Michelle either, it's just that we'll be hiring, cause we don't have a firm understanding of when the background checks can be completed yet.
Right, and I'll work with the treasurer on that,
Okay.
if she knows that process.
Okay, but we know we're moving forward, and we, in terms of Michelle, we wanna try to make sure that Joyce Fundel is still here to do some
Exactly.
onboarding, okay. All right, very good, yes,
Can we just have that written in though?
starting on the 27th?
No, and I mean, it looks like here, we're already all set, we say, yeah, offer the job, I mean, if we could just write it in, so upon successful completion of the process of the background investigation, and I'm sure that includes driving.
Okay, so,
drug test or whatever.
pending successful.
And I did that in the.
That was in the report.
It's in the report, and it's also, I think you're working on I think Seth is working on an employment agreement that has.
Yes.
Would have that,
That's the, yeah,
would
that's
have
what.
that. So it's,
That was
does
right.
that before the employment agreement? Is that okay?
Yeah, just looking at the motion, to have that, the language that we were just all talking about added to what we're voting on, that
Successful, okay.
allow the offer of position upon successful completion of the background investigation and employment processes.
Okay, so that's, Beamish supporting that motion that was offered, second on that?
Second.
Miller. Any other discussion on that amendment to the motion?
It's just more complete now.
Okay,
Just for the record, England made the most back supported.
okay, I thought it was, okay, that's fine. Okay, so for that, should we just do all on, everyone in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now we can do roll call unless there's anything else on, 9/14/23.
Trustee Bemis.
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood.
Yes.
Trustee Dingman.
Yes.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes. Treasurer Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Hires.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Very good. I don't think he's here tonight. Okay, and then, resolution 9/14/2354, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to enter into a municipal agreement with the City of Battle Creek, the City of Springfield, and Penfield Charter Township for early voting services. and the full agreement is in the packet and posted online. Do I have a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Support. Okay, discussion, Joyce?
Yes. So you may remember back in November of 2022, when it was voted on by the people that they wanted to see early voting. That was part of what was on the ballot. So bringing that forward, we have potentially we are merging with Penfield Township and with the city of Springfield and the city of Battle Creek. Those 4 communities are 56% of Calhoun County's voters. That embarks 56%. The reason we're doing that, or hope to do that, is that we can keep costs down by being 1 unit, and we'll be voting at the Cool Center. That's the place that has been picked out, and there's already a contract in place for it, for early voting there. The other option was to go with the county, which would mean that we would drive past the Cool Center, because the city of Battle Creek was going to do their own voting regardless. So they would be there. If we partnered with the county, we would drive past that for our voters to go to the county building to vote for early voting. So this makes more sense. That is a central location for the precinct, or the agencies that are working together. There's a map in your,
well, it's on, I don't think it was printed out for all of them, but it's online, it was sent to you.
So we just got this information for dollars, what we would be spending. There are grants available. We've applied for the grant. The county has also applied for the grant, and it'll be divided by voters, is how it's going to work, the number of voters that are involved. And like I said, we have 56% of the voters in Calhoun County that will vote at that precinct. I think it's important to realize when you partner, we could run all of the 9 days of voting singly. We could run those 9 days in a row, which would mean we'd have to staff them. There are costs that are incurred for paying for staffing, paying for the rental, paying for the machine. We have to use a machine that is not used on election day. So we're figuring out that we will have to buy 1 machine, Bedford will have to buy 1, Springfield will buy 1, Penfield will buy 1, and then the city will buy more, the remainder, because it's per a certain number. But this, we will not have to have a full-time staff there every day. We will have staff there every day, but we won't have to fulfill the full staff. It's going to run, being with this group, we're going to be about $7,000 each township. Our portion would be about $7,000, which is a lot less expensive than running it 9 days independently. It is mandatory, it's not a choice. It's not a choice. So let me know your questions.
Any questions for Joyce?
I mean, I think a centralized location is much better. We just got to talking about people that have an issue driving and expecting them to go to the county building is ridiculous.
And this doesn't, the votes are, someone had asked earlier, the votes are tabulated, they are not released. So you won't know if there are 100 votes, you're not gonna know what the votes were. You may know the vote count, but not. So you won't know results until election day.
This really state, federal level.
Yes. So we'll have, right, so there'll be 30 days of voting next year instead of 3. So it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of time, but again, it's not a choice. This was voted on by the people. So we will follow that. And so Superintendent, I did not give you this paperwork because I didn't have the paperwork. So certainly you have it now. But that was part of it. We didn't have it to share. Any more questions?
Okay. We'll go ahead and vote on resolution 914-2354.
Treasurer Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Hires,
Yes.
Trustee Demus,
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood,
Yes.
Trustee Dingman,
Yes.
Supervisor Jones,
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes. 7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you. And our last resolution of the evening, 9/14/2355, resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Bedford to establish a millage at 0.625 for the special assessment district for streetlights effective for 2023, which will yield $77,461 for streetlight operation and maintenance. This is basically a renewal of, every year we have to do this. Last year, I think we waited until October to do it. I thought, if we can get it from the assessor, she helps us with those numbers, and basically a renewal of, every year we have to do this. Last year, I think we waited until October to do it. I thought, if we can get it from the assessor, she helps us with those numbers, and we don't have streetlights everywhere. Not everyone is assessed streetlights. So we have to look at what our operating costs were. So Joyce, between the two Joyces, they ran the numbers. This is just slightly over, it's not much. It's, I think the last one was 0.614 or something like that. This is 0.625, for the operation of those streetlights and the charges. So, okay, so that's just a little explanation. So do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So then we have Greenwood and Miller. All right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Hires,
Yes.
Trustee Demus,
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood,
Yes.
Trustee Dingman,
Yes.
Supervisor Jones,
Yes.
Clerk Baraco, yes. Treasurer Miller,
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, very good, thank you. And at this point, it's a long night. We are back to public comment. At this point, anyone from the audience can speak for 3 minutes. At this point, you can speak on anything you would like. Same rules for public comment. And please state your name.
Still Dustin Jacks. What to believe and who to believe? Well, you certainly can't believe our outgoing supervisor who said repeatedly that Joyce Spoonville is retiring. She certainly isn't retiring, she's just leaving Bedford. Because Bedford's horrible. Just like most of the other people that have been leaving, dropping like flies, leaving nonstop, can't keep somebody long enough in the office to even make them officially have the job. But what can you believe? Can't believe Joni, who has told you repeatedly now tonight that this transference of power to the superintendent over the water project is just temporary until they get somebody. Notice the resolution didn't say that. Notice the resolution didn't say the transfer of authority was temporary until there was a new supervisor. Notice it was completely 100% transfer of power with no resistance, because she's a liar. There's lies that go on non-stop here, and I'm going to continue to expose them. You know, I don't know if it's ignorance or illiteracy, but the right to record is part of your First Amendment right. I don't know if it's delusion or deception or deceitfulness, but, you know, so holding a camera stationary while someone else charges up to it and puts their face in it is not sticking your camera in someone's face. That's some idiot sticking their face in your camera and demanding to stop being recorded. But it's funny that I get brought up by our parks leader there, because the one and only time I've been to one of these events with my camera was when it got the record attendance. And I seem to remember no one complaining about a camera being in their face, but Joni Jones and Joyce and others asking me specifically on camera to come up and get their faces on the camera. Please. They wanted to. So who can you believe around here? Not the liars. Not the liars. I'm here to point out the things like the lies from Dirty Dave Gilbert that was here, who tried to pretend like he didn't really know Joni. Like they're not neighbors on St. Mary's Lake. Like they're not both stealing public beachfront and a public lane as their back and side yards. As has been revealed to the world, but don't worry, they got that under wraps, because if you look at the invoices to the attorneys, you'll see the meetings with Joni and our attorney and the St. Mary's Lake association, and planning. It's amazing how when you're rich and elite, you can get done whatever you want, just in time to get out of office before you get busted for it. These lies are not going to stand. People are going to find out. It's going to come out. Getting.
Thank you for your
Yes,
comments.
ma'am.
Anyone else like to make public comment tonight?
So, a couple things that I heard that stuck out, I took the notes on. McKinney said that he worked on a grant, and then he turned right around and he didn't even know who it was submitted to. I thought that was kind of interesting. Heard some stuff about hard work, and that hard work was related to emails that were sent out to gather people for a board meeting. I don't know what hard work is considered nowadays, but emails and communications to organize people is not actually hard work. Lots of people should be recording and streaming the park events. I mean, for the people on any of these boards or committees or groups to continue to say that you want transparency or openness and you want things to be streamed or seen, or not controlling speech, but then all you do is control speech and violate the First Amendment, and people are trying to convince other people that it's okay to, oh, don't let people record you. That's not a good thing to do out in public. For park events, that is how you actually get to see, and more people get to understand what kind of things are going on, right? Would be recording that live event. So definitely record those live events and share that widely. Show what good things are going on in Bedford Township. Now, we have someone that finally is doing the right thing and stepping down. We still need to know if someone else is going to step down or not, because the truth is when you are on a board, you are to live. That means that you go to sleep and then you wake up every day in that community. Once you no longer do that in that community, you no longer live in that community. And we know that Mr. Beamish does not live in this community any longer, because this is an officer telling us what the neighbors told us.
That you say?
One year he's been living there. He leaves in the morning and he comes back at night. So this is Sergeant with Berry County that spoke to Mr. Beamish's neighbor 2 months ago and verified that Mr. Beamish for a year now has been living in Berry County on Crooked Lake in his parents' home. His neighbors have verified that they moved all of their belongings out of the property a year ago. I want you to address it. And my name is Mr. Heikela, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heikela.
You guys believe the evidence? You guys believe it?
All right, anyone else like to?
Is anyone going to stand up and speak?
I
I hope.
that,
Tell them to resign.
from a resident, who didn't feel like
If he made better
Excuse
decisions.
me for a moment, please. Mr. Heikela? Mr. Heikela? There's someone else who would like to speak, and I do want free speech here, so please let Ms. McClendon speak now. Thank you. Okay, everyone?
Could you tell him?
So that we can,
That
so
would
we
be
can hear.
direct.
Okay, you done?
Are you joking?
Hey.
Oh, really?
All right, all right.
Are you drunk, is what he said.
That's your warning, that's your first
Looks
warning.
like she's
Mr.
sober
Michael,
now.
I would like for this meeting that I did not have to ask for the police to remove you. So please, just be respectful. You just spoke about free speech. Do not suppress someone else's right to speak by intimidating and bullying and calling names, all right? Thank you, all right?
Okay, so this person started showing, you stepped up to the plate and took on a thankless job
when the residents of this community were left to deal with the drama inflicted by previous supervisor. You did your best to manage picking up the pieces and addressing the issues that needed attention in Bedford Township. All the while, your values of respect and integrity were constantly challenged by those trying to bring you down to their sanctimonious level. You had and have the support of far more residents than a few bad apples and their social media followers that have been and will continue to try and be disruptive to any positive efforts to move this township forward. You should hold your head high and be proud of your accomplishments during your tenure as the Bedford Township Supervisor. Thank you for your service and congratulations on your retirement. You deserve peace. I'll give you the letter.
Very nice, thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak tonight, public comment?
Mike Stack. I too would like to thank the supervisor for her excellent effort in manning the post during very, very difficult times. I'm sure I'm going to take a lot of flack and be called a crony and other such things, and that's okay. I started coming back to meetings in February of 22 because I just was curious about seeing, what's going on. It's been 4 years as supervisor. Haven't missed one. I've been to the interview processes. I've been to pretty much everything except during the day. And I can tell you that the first thing that I did when I accepted being the chair of the planning commission is I went and I went and looked at some videos of board meetings and how do you conduct a meeting? What do you do? Not because I thought everything that you did was right, because you were the supervisor, and I said, you have to start somewhere, and you have to learn somewhere. Your leadership has been something that has gone very unnoticed by a lot of people, but is very noticed by a lot of people. That doesn't make sense, but there are those in this community that are going to have to step up and be part of the process, and part of the solution moving forward. And I hope that we can all live up to the bar that we've set. I know there's going to be people that say that that bar is not been set and this, that, and the other. Contrary to everyone's popular belief, there is a ton that goes on down here in this township, far more than I ever could have even thought about. And I've been a resident my whole life here. Went to board meetings for a while and then didn't come back for a while. Now I'm back again, and the amount of work that goes on down here is just crazy. It's been a very, very great opportunity for me to get to know our supervisor and our clerk and our treasurer. Everyone has always been willing to help. And I can only hope that moving forward, that the board thinks about those things moving forward and how we're going to handle the process of another vacancy. I can tell you that we move too slow, and you just can't do that. I'm not saying you should just rush into things, but we've had openings in all kinds of different departments for a long time. So we need to be a little bit faster, but maintain the transparency that you help bring to the township. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, I appreciate that. Anyone else tonight for?
I'm Rita Kerwin. I told my husband I wasn't going to get up tonight, but I'm going to. You guys seen a lot of me in the office, a lot, in the last couple months. Joni, I talk to you most of the time. Joyce, I talk to you a lot. Erica, I talk to a lot. Superintendent, I talk to you quite a bit. Mark, talk to you a lot. Joni, sorry you're leaving. A lot of things go on in here, like Mr. Scott said. I've lived here for 30 years in this township. It's disheartening what's going on. I hear a lot of things, sad things. Our township is going through a lot of transition, and I hope that it will start moving in the right direction. And it is gonna take some time. And we all need to work together, everybody. And we need all this bickering to stop. I've come to some of the meetings, and I've seen what's going on. And I haven't come to a lot of them because of what's happened. And I came tonight to see what was gonna go on. And it's very disheartening. Very disheartening. And again, I told my husband, I'm not gonna get up. I promise you I will not get up. And I had to. Because this is the township I live in. And I'll die in this township. But I want better for all of us. And we have to stop this arguing. We really have to stop this arguing. Because we've gotta be better. And people say we have to be vocal locals. Yeah, we do, but we have to do it correctly. Let's do it the right way. Because we are a better community. All of us. To work together. That's what we're supposed to do. If we're not gonna do that, you know, we gotta be a solution, not the problem. And if you wanna be better, then run for office. Don't be the problem. Seriously. And if I've ever offended anybody, I'm so sorry. Truly. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kerwin, for your comments. Anyone else tonight for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move to, the announcement by chairperson, elected official, trustee Junior.
I'm just gonna keep it simple, I already said enough, but I'd like to thank you for your time. The people that come to the meetings for the right reasons to support the township and assist, they see what you've done. We've had more major projects started, that are moving forward to improve the township. And, you know, people that are just here for viewers and garbage, they're gonna keep twisting it, so is Norma. The grants and the monies you got that, you know, we don't pay, it doesn't come out of our budget, but it's improving the township. It's phenomenal. Long before I was on the board, I came here as the liaison representative for the police department back when Ann Armstrong was the township supervisor. Nothing like this ever happened. You know, it was just, you know, the good old township. I'm not saying it was wrong then, but things have grown. You can't stay stagnant, you haven't. You've done a lot, you put up with a lot. And, you know, those of us that know why you have to leave, you've got family to take care of. I agree with you, family always comes first. As much as I wish to finish my obligation, if I was, you know, helping and dealing with who you are, I'd be too. It's not even a consideration. So thank you.
You, trustee Beamish?
Sure. And echo, Craig, Joey, thanks for the time you put in, kind of trust that on you. Whatever that meeting was that we appointed you as supervisor, thanks for taking on that role and.
I remember that.
Councilman Hilton. Thanks for filling that role. And several people have asked me to clear up the lies that are getting put out there by a couple of folks, and talked to several people in the last few weeks about the lies that folks are putting out. Lie is spelled L-I-E, in case you guys are confused. My mother's home in Berry County on Crooked Lake. Yep, very nice home. So my dad died in 2021, and since then I've been taking care of my mother, who has dementia. She was diagnosed with that in 2016. She tried living in town with us here at this house for a while, and once the routine of my dad being gone, then that dementia kicked into high gear and made it so that she couldn't live with me. So currently she lives in an adult foster care home. And I've been working on her home, one, to maintain that home. My mom and dad had 7 cats. Old people with 7 cats is not a good idea, folks. So I'm working to get that house more livable. At some point, the dementia's going to take its toll. My mom's going to be confined to a hospital bed, in which case I'll bring her home and let her die in her home. So while I've been sleeping in Berry County, I've gotten one of her rental houses fixed up enough that I could sell it, so that I could continue paying the fees that the foster care home require. I'm very pleased that I've been able to maintain a good level of living for her with the assets that my dad left and that she still possesses. I don't own a residence in Berry County. I own several in Bedford. I want to take the preface when I get into taxes today. I think I'm fairly well vested in Bedford Township. I always pay my taxes on time. Nobody ever pays my taxes for me. Sorry about your luck, Adam. I'm pretty well vested in the county. I've been here in this township for 40 years as a resident. I'm not going anywhere. My crystal ball is broken, so I don't know what the future holds for my mom, how long she'll live, any of that. And the real bummer part is that the cost of an AFC home, a decent AFC home that I choose to sacrifice to keep my mother in, is quite extensive. So if it comes down to it, I'll have her home ready to sell so that I can continue taking care of her. Now, I have spoken with our legal counsel to make sure that I'm doing what's proper for the residents of Bedford. And time again, even when I question myself because of the liars that are in the room here, he reassures me that I'm in the confines of the law, being a good resident, and that I don't need to do that. Some people have questioned that in the last several weeks because of the lies that get put out there on their social media control platforms. One of my biggest things is, if you think you can wear my boots, go ahead and try to put them on. I guarantee you that the liars would not hold up to wearing my boots. So I appreciate you guys taking the time. Hope my mom lives a good long time, but data and statistics don't really favor that. And I'll take care of my family the way that I need to take care of my family, and hope that some of the liars might have the same fortitude to take care of their family as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Beamish. Trustee Greenwood.
I just want to echo what everyone has said about your leadership as supervisor. I think what was missed was also your leadership as trustee. You were elected in. I remember sitting at a table over there, just being, it was awe-inspiring to watch you. You will definitely be missed. Thank you for your service.
I really want to echo that your service has been invaluable to this township. You've taken us from one level up to another. I've been amazed at what you've done and appreciate your service, and I really hope you enjoy retirement.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, and then elected officials.
So, a couple big things happened tonight. Obviously, supervisor resigned, which means we have two ways to deal with the next. We have a vacant seat. We have 45 days to fill it. That
starts on
October 5th. So we have time. We can choose to have an election. So people that may be interested in running that maybe we didn't even think of can do that. That would be paid for by the township. The second option would be to appoint someone. It can be appointed from the group of peers. It can be appointed from someone on the board. But those are both options that we can choose to do. So as a board, we would make that decision to go forward with an election. Again, that would bring in people maybe you didn't even know were interested in the position, or again to appoint, and both are legal.
I think the election would be appointed by the party, right? Each party would appoint.
And then I just want to say quickly that Bedford is better because of you.
All right, Treasurer Miller.
I had a lot, but I didn't think we were gonna go this long. The shortest I can keep it, we'll get all those reports on there that should be on there. We'll do that. Glad you said that. And secondly, we're gonna start diversifying the money. It's all in one bank, and the one bank will only cover up to 750,000. So we're gonna start spreading it out a little bit. And I need your thoughts really quickly on a bond I want to tell you guys about, or a CD. It's at 1 year right now. It matured about 4 days ago, but I waited for this meeting to ask you guys because I want to renew it for 5 years instead of 1. Now, keep in mind, the general account's got 2.5 million in it. The thing behind that is a tax reserve account, and since I've been here, we haven't touched a dollar of it. And then beyond that is this tax reserve CD that I want to hold it for 5 years. But one of the stipulations of our investment policy is that, well, even Heather said that CDs were considered cash, that's nice, but I don't wanna miss out. If you cash in a CD too early, you lose all the interest you're waiting for at the end of its maturity. So we don't want that. Now, I do not foresee whatsoever us even getting into the tax reserve account, let alone even looking in the direction of that CD for the next 5 years. So if it is okay with all of you guys, would you accept a 60-month CD, it's 5 years, 4.85%, also the interest rate will probably drop in the next year, maybe 1 or 2%, so we'll lock in that nice large interest rate, and it's on about a $750,000 CD. What do you guys think?
You know, I support your idea.
Locking it in for 5 years, is that what you're?
60 months.
Okay, I wish we could have had this on, board resolution rather than at the end of the meeting, because my concern would be, I hope we can lock something in like that and not worry about it, but I also know we're gonna have, we're gonna have road funding issues coming up. And if we don't have, that's not gonna be very liquid for us, right, for the town. When does that decision have to be made? I'm just wondering if the board you should put this in writing for the board, and it can come back to the board for the October 12th meeting.
Okay, so if you wait a month, the only thing you're gonna forfeit is the interest on it for a month. And possibly an interest rate, and possibly the 60-month CD. Okay, here's the first thing. It's already in the investment policy. I didn't actually need to ask you guys, but I want you to know what's going on, because all of these brains here are very valuable, and somebody might know something I don't. So
one of the thoughts, if I may.
Sure.
One of the thoughts, is that we do have a fire station that is condemned, and we're going to have to make a move on that at some point. It can't be built overnight. It can't be planned overnight. So that, it's probably 2 or 3 years down the road, which then might play into when that matures. Just a thought in that direction.
it's not terrible. It sounded like the roads might be out a couple years right about the maturity date. Maybe we can turn that 750 into $1 million by then.
At 4%.
5 year, okay.
You're tying, I don't mean to interject, Supervisor Jones, but you would be tying the hands of a board that's not even elected yet.
That's correct.
That's my concern, and it's a lot of money of the townships that is not, I like the interest rate.
We don't lose that money, we don't take that money out. We're just foregoing the interest. If someone had to pull it early, we would have lost.
Okay, so, if it's not something that you need a board, it's part of your policy as the treasurer, then you're just informing us that that's what you're going to do.
Hopefully I'm picking your minds
Okay.
a little.
And there's no penalty for, withdrawal, okay. Okay, then I guess you're moving forward with that.
750,000, 4.65 for 60 months would net about 195,000 over the term.
Okay, my brain told me 250, but it was a half a second I used to.
Maybe planning.
Okay. Yeah, so, okay, yeah, if we can have that in writing, that would be really helpful, so we know what's the, the, going forward, where it is.
We'll do that
If I
before
could
we
just say one
solemnize it.
thing, and I had the pleasure of Erica explaining this to me before the meeting, and it wasn't the forum, it was just the stand and the parking lot. And she really did her homework. The 4.8% for 5 years stomps the snot out of the percentage, even though the percentage is a little higher. But for 1 year, wouldn't be nearly the earned revenue. And, you know, again, like I say, if there was something that comes up that we need the money, you know, we're not tying the other board's hands, they can take it. They're just gonna forego the 195,000. You know, and there's all these other funds that, you know, things have to get pretty bad before we say, okay, let's draw that out of there. But here's a chance to jump in when we all know what the Federal Reserve, quite a few of us, you know, and watch what the Federal Reserve is predicting, what our government in Washington wants to do. The interest rates to loan are soaring, and the interest rates to invest are plummeting. So Erica did some work here and found what sounds to me like a good opportunity where the money's not locked up. We can get it out.
Where is that, Erica? Is that money? CCU, Consumer Credit Union, because it's only $750 per institution. It doesn't matter how the accounts, it matters the entity. So everything we have is only coming up to $750. We got like $6 million in there. Okay. It's dangerous.
Erica, how much is in the tax reserve?
I can't even remember off the top of my head, 1.2 million?
And we haven't touched that?
We don't, not a dime.
I'm sure it's
Not a dime since I've been here.
It's because it's part of the investment policy. I was informational.
She'll just let us know.
Well, we take advice. It is important.
Again, just like from future, I think, it would be great to have that as a, when I send out, like, do you have anything for the board? If you have anything for
I
the
didn't
agenda.
have that.
Board
Oh, okay, for discussion items, because we can then deliberate, because we're not all together, we can't be all together, so these are good discussions to have. Okay, anything else, Treasurer Noel?
Let's stop there.
Okay.
The taxes were great, and I thank everybody. Like I said, 90% in, but still you've got 1 out of 10 that can't be, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
All right, very good. Okay, and my turn, and again, I wanna, thank you all, the board, and I'm here until October 5th, and I will be working hard with Dennis and with the board, right up until the last date. I thank you for the accolades, but it's not just me, it's the board. It's, you know, we work hard, and I want you to continue working hard. I don't want the outside distractions, which have been hard. I mean, and they've caused some, you know, some consternation even on the board, and which is what it's designed to do. It's an orchestrated effort, as I said, to create chaos and to cause board members to turn upon board members. And it's not right, and it's not Christian, and it shouldn't happen. But it has been my pleasure. I've met so many wonderful Bedford people that I would never have met had I not run for trustee and been elected as trustee, and then agreed to serve as the supervisor upon Mr. Scott's resignation. And so it's, again, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for meeting all the wonderful people who work so hard. And I want to just, again, I want to thank everyone on this board, particularly the clerk's office works so hard. I don't know if everyone understands that. Everybody works hard in this township, but that office doesn't just stick to their statutory duties. They go way outside of their statute, and they help residents, they are neighbors serving neighbors. Truly, that is their spirit in that office. They do, besides elections and besides all of the payroll and all the everything in terms of the general ledger that Joyce has to do, and Tara, they help so much just even in planning the meetings. They do the cemetery, they schedule the parks, they serve as notaries. There is no way I would have survived without them. There's no way. So, and I know that the people in this township know what treasures they are, the people that deal with them, I do, but I just want to publicly thank Tara and Joyce for being such support to me. When I first came and was in my office after, and it was such a whirlwind, and I mean, I didn't know where anything was. I was locked out of my computer for 2 weeks, and they stepped me through all the way. And we have had wonderful support, both both from our legal team and the consultants that have worked with us for years on infrastructure. So to have them aligned and badmouthed at this meeting is just, it's expected, but it's a shame. It really is. But we all expect it now. But anyway, I know this board will continue the next 13 months, 14 months working hard together. And I have every confidence that Bedford will continue to grow and be a good place to live. So for that, I thank you, and we will adjourn this meeting at 9:34 p.m. Thank you.
That's the clerk, the deputy clerk, we got 70 voters to show up to the vote that they did vote on. Also, the clerk, deputy clerk, showed up and insisted on having victims protected.
Very criminal, guys. This is what it is. His father was a criminal.
She came and accosted me after the meeting.
Keep walking away.
Or I'd still be like,
Keep walking away, because you don't want to approach someone that's just using words and make it threatening in front of the police, sir. So just go away. Exactly. Are you there? No, go away. You don't want to get on film.
Why don't you
Please. You are on YouTube, sir. Not even married? Oh, just married? Oh, yeah. What does it matter anyways? The government has to tell him what to do.
Yeah, the high clothes here. Me and my wife, and then everyone else here makes their check. This is the deputy clerk.
Mark Hires illegally held 2 positions in this township for over a decade, right? For over a decade. And then he lies about his resignation letter. You didn't know about or could remember, right?
Are you drunk?
You're a criminal.
He seems to be. You say we want to do this, you're going to put your face on the camera and explain how to swing.
Why don't you try to breathalyzer so you can test everybody? People know people. How about we see your marriage?
Is that why she walked down here?
How about your marriage?
Oh, here we go. Let's go feel out those things. I know I don't like your belly touching me, so don't come bumping into me. He's on video at the last meeting. You're on video at the last meeting.
I'm on video right now.
I know people, right? Nice to meet people, right?
I'm Rita. Hey, go on behind that camera. Come behind it. Look it away for a minute.
What? No more happening. Sir, you walked up.
No, you're walking towards me.
Sir, you walked up.
You're walking towards me. You never walk here.
Yes.
He's gonna have a stroke. You better be careful. His blood pressure is obviously high and loaded.
But he did finally got the Let him down the stick.
Yeah, I just.
What, the drunk girl after the bar video? That's hilarious.
I was just curious, Perry County has signs up that say about deciding no on solar farming. I just thought it would be nice to have an opportunity to vote like they are. I just thought it would be nice to have an opportunity to vote with the people of Perry County and not have Mike Stein decide for them.
Have a good night, Justin.
Hey, what about Mike?
Yes.
We're not gonna call it.
Mike, I was thought for a second that you were gonna actually say something about Barry living in Frederick County, but you don't care about that either? No, big deal.
Let it out.
Jody Frederick. My people bring the things I all bring up are relevant because it's not, I'm not doing it for me, okay? I'm doing it for the people to know, and so they need to know. So I need to ask other people that are not involved with crony or whatever. But you can't play one foot in, one foot out. That's what cronies do. That's what a crony is. Push against the people that are you have a voice, you have an ability, to say something and have people listen to it, but you zero. No, she's not. Most of the people I know do such a great appearance of nice and good. Everything she has done has been for control for the township. Same thing with Stacy. Strengthen those businesses, which only means making them somehow more valid for them to suggest when they get the power of what we say. That's what it means. 100%. She won't argue against that. That's what she wants.
Sure. Sure. Right. You got someplace where you're gonna send, you know, someplace for people. What do you mean by work? That's 961, thank you.
Don't look at me.
How are you tonight, sir?
Good. You look good, man. You must have got some new pills or something. You look a little less bloated. You must have just Huh?
You better get back on.
Oh, I take no pills. We take no medications in my household. Never have. My children never have. My children have never had medication.
Why don't you take a poll and ask people if
I need medication. Oh, well, that's the doctrine of nursing, right? That violated her oath of office and her license. Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Appreciate that. We're ready to skedaddle here. We're trying to save you all a little fuss. Yeah. No accident on the roadside.